Welcome back to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. Again, my name is Heidi Graham, and I am the president of the local League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, Elk Grove Village, Prospect Heights, and Wheeling. We will now hear from the candidates for Elk Grove Village Board, and the candidates are Nancy Zarnick, Sam Lissner, Julie Mortensen, Scott Sachs, Stephen Schmidt, and Jeff Zeman. Jeff Zeman has not attended today's forum. Just as a reminder, the candidates have agreed to abide by the ground rules provided by the League of Women Voters, and they are as follows. Candidates have drawn numbers to determine their speaking order. The moderator will rotate the order during the forum. Each candidate will have a 2-minute introduction. Next, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions, and at the end, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. The reason we are starting a few minutes late today is because we allowed the first forum to go over by a little bit so that we could add a question. So we will be ending closer to noon than the posted time of 11:50. League members will act as timers. They're sitting here in the front row, and candidates will have a 30-second and a 15-second warning. So we ask the candidates to please quickly complete their thought before they see the red stop card. Time limits will be enforced out of respect for all candidates. Questions will be provided by the audience, and each question will be answered by all of the candidates. Ask questions that pertain to all, please. League members have index cards. They're here in the audience dressed in white, and they will be picked up by those same volunteers. Questions are then reviewed by our committee for clarity, appropriateness, and to avoid duplication. Candidates have been asked to not interrupt each other, and the moderator will repeat a question if asked. Audience, if I could please ask you to turn off all electronic devices out of respect for all. Please hold your applause until the end, and please do not demonstrate in any way support or non-support of a candidate. Once again, League of Women Voters is a non-partisan organization. In our 100-year history, we have never endorsed a candidate or a party. There will be space in the lobby after the forum for candidates to speak to supporters. Campaign literature will be available at the tables in the lobby. No campaign signs may be posted. Please be respectful of all candidates and attendees. Finally, we ask that you do not videotape or take pictures of any kind. League of Women Voters is videotaping today's forum, and we will post it on our website. We also may take pictures and post to our Facebook page and other social media outlets. We encourage you to follow us on social media and to find out all that we are doing. Lastly, I'd just like to say we are all volunteers. There is not one single person paid in our organization, and this forum would not be made possible without the many volunteers that you see here today. So I want to thank them for their time and effort to make this community forum possible. And then I am pleased to announce our moderator, expert moderator, Miss Judy Hoffman, who has come to us all the way from the League of Women Voters of Evanston. Thank you.
Good morning. The candidates are seated here in the order that they pulled their lots. And we will be starting in a minute with the opening statements of 2 minutes with Ms. Mortensen first. When that's done, we'll start with the questions down the line with Mr. Lissner next. But let's get started here. One thing to know is it is challenging to give an answer in a minute. So the candidates will do their best to answer in a minute, but it's very common. No one should be embarrassed. Always happens where I have to cut someone off, and at all levels of government. And also, I'm happy to repeat the question if needed. But let's get started. And 2 minutes, Ms. Mortensen, opening statement.
First off, I'd like to say good morning and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on the forum. My name is Julie Mortensen. I've lived in Elk Grove Village for 46 years. I've gotten to a point now where I have some time to get really more involved in the community. I feel that maybe the village needs to be a little more transparent. We have a wonderful village. There's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of things to do here, but I think sometimes we need a little bit more of that transparency, and we also need a little more being involved with the residents. Having the opportunity to walk door to door for my candidacy, you learn that there are issues and concerns of the residents that I think we really, really need to address. And how we do that, at this point, I don't know. I think we just need to be more involved. And sometimes even the complacency of the residents, we need for you to become more involved. You know, if you don't like something, then you need to tell them. You need to let us know what we need to do, because you're the voice, and I want to be your voice. That's why I'm running. I'm still a resident of the village, so if I can be your voice, I would love to.
Thank you. Mr. Listener.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone, and also thanks to the League of Women Voters for holding this event. Our village has accomplished much over the past year. Just naming a few: no property tax increases in 2019, the lowest tax rate in the Northwest Cook County suburbs for many years in a row, the lowest business park vacancy rate in history of Elk Grove, and they eliminated the vehicle registry stickers, which is my favorite. And of course, the free concerts that had record attendance last year. But there are many people to thank for these accomplishments. Of course, Mayor Johnson for his strong leadership, the dedicated village employees and the board, the volunteers that serve our community, boards, commissions, CERT, and of course the residents of the businesses that are part of our village. I'm looking forward to serving another term on the village board. In fact, I'm as excited about this election as my first election. And I'd like to thank you, and I look forward to responding to your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
Good morning. My name is Steve Schmidt, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters, and I want to thank all the citizens for coming out to listen to us today and provide the questions. You probably, a lot of you know me, I was on the police department for over 40 years. I was the chief for my last 17 years, and I've lived in the community for over 32 years. And during my time as a resident in this community, I did a lot of volunteer work, starting with baseball leagues with my kids, and then I went into the Boy Scouts. I was a troop master for 495 for many years. I've been involved in Rotary Club. I used to run the Rotary Fest, and now I'm involved with the Elk Grove Defiant Sister City. So I have over 30 years of volunteer work in this community, and I believe, and I have a lot of work with the youth. And one of the reasons why I'm running for board is that you, the people, have supported me tremendously as chief of police. Now I want to give back to you and serve another capacity as village trustee. As Sam said, this is a great community, but I believe that we have to look to the future. One of the things that I want to do, because I teach at Harper, I've taught there for 25 years, I deal with the young people. We need to get the next generation involved, not only in our civic organizations, but in our elected process. We have a lot of civic organizations that, in this community. A couple of them have folded over the years, like the Kiwanis Club and the JCs, because of lack of membership. Our other organizations, they are low on membership, and I like to start an initiative to get the next generation involved in our civic organizations and hopefully eventually in our elected officials, because Elk Grove is a great community, but we have to prepare for the future to continue to make this community the great community that it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs.
630-258-4892. That's my personal cell phone number. I've had that number for longer than I've lived in Elk Grove Village, and I've lived here for nearly 20 years. From the moment I announced my candidacy and running for trustee, as I've collected signatures throughout the community, all the way through today, I've made myself approachable and accessible. My phone number and email address are on my website, Facebook page, every handout I've given, every mailer I've sent. To effectively represent our community, I have to hear from our community. But this election isn't about me, and frankly, it's really not about the rest of us sitting up here. It's about all of us, not just the candidates, but everybody here. It's about our community and its future. As leaders, we have a responsibility to better the community we serve, and we cannot do that alone. I make decisions based on information and facts, and with the input of all stakeholders. So for me, your voice is critical and should be a valued part of the process. And when I make a decision, it will always be in the best interest of the entire community. While you and I may not always agree, I will always be available to discuss these decisions in a transparent and respectful manner, not just after the decision has been made, but while it's being deliberated. Beyond my background in business and technology, I've spent the last 20 years in service to others through nonprofit volunteer and leadership roles. I've served on a variety of boards, I've been an advocate to better communities around the state, and I've worked with legislators on both sides of the aisle. I want to continue my service right here at home for the community we all love. I will bring a fresh and independent perspective to the village board. I'm Scott Sachs, and that's why I'm running for trustee. I thank you all for joining us here today and look forward to your questions and to further serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik.
Good morning. Thank you to the League of Women Voters.
Is your mic, press the red button.
Of course.
Yeah, and also make sure it's
Oh, thank you.
there.
I'm Nancy Zarnik. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I thank you for the residents that are watching and participating in this. And I thank the candidates because we all have a tremendous interest in Elk Grove. I've lived in Elk Grove for a little over 50 years now, raised my family, and now I'm very happy to say my grandchildren are being raised here also. So my interest in the community has always been to the best of everyone, the residents, because I'm part of that. I think that's an important area. One of the things that we have done on this, on the current board that I've been a part of since 1989, so that's 30 years now. When I was first appointed and then elected, it was something that we talked about transparency. We made sure that our village board meetings were recorded, and we have gone forward with that, always being open and available to you all. I'm certainly hoping that this election will prove to you again that I'm always available to you as I have been in the past, and I look forward to serving you again. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start with the questions now. Mr. Listener, you will be first. And just going to go big now. What is the most important issue facing the village? You have 1 minute.
Thank you. It's sort of hard to pin it down to one because there's several. We'll always have issues with being so close to O'Hare Airport. It's a blessing and a problem at times. There's more runways going in the next year or so, and that's going to mean more noise, and noise bothers some of our residents. So our mayor has done an excellent job being chairman of the Suburban O'Hare Commission, and he's worked with the city of Chicago and airline or airport experts, and he's also working with the noise people. I think they're out of Mount Prospect. But that's what I would put first. The second is always the economy. We thrive on the economy, and it's always subject to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
I think the airport is a very important issue. As long as Sam talked about it, I talked about something else, and that's keeping the taxes down as much as we can in this community. The village has done a wonderful job with that, and part of that is keeping that industrial park vibrant. And we have the largest business park in the United States, and I think that it's important people understand that it's next to the nation's busiest airport. We have all 6 major railroads coming into this area here, so there's transportation incentives over here. And I think that, my feeling is that even though it's 97% filled, we should not rest until we have 100% occupancy rate and we have a waiting list, because that helps this entire community and it keeps our taxes low. And I think that's important for the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs.
Oh, I would agree that both the airport and the business park are very huge factors in the community. I think the one big thing that impacts us all is kind of that sea of chaos that surrounds us, the state of Illinois and the county of Cook, where we have been very good at keeping our house in order, but the communities around us, or the state around us, is not. So I think overall, looking at how we can work with the state, or be prepared for the things that come down the line to ensure that our taxes remain low, our services remain high, and to your point, Steve, that we keep that business park full. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik?
As the other candidates have mentioned, I think the business park is very important to us. It is that's our breadbasket to this community. I also wanted to make sure that we update the needs of that area, and that's what we have done with the major infrastructure monies that we have put toward it. We're looking forward to making sure that that stays viable, because that success helps keeps our taxes low. I also think that it's important that we make sure that we reach out to our community through the internet, the apps that we have, through the different public information that's available to us.
Thank you. Ms. Mortensen?
How do we make Elk Grove a village that everybody wants to come to, whether they're a business or whether they're a resident? How do we do that? How do we, without doing a lot of advertising, how do we fix the village, or not fix it, but beautify it, upgrade it, so that people will want to come and live in Elk Grove Village? There are a lot of other towns in the area where they do things to get people to come. I don't think we have to spend so much money on advertising. If we make the village a place that everybody's going to want to come to, then we should get the businesses and we should get the residents that we need.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Schmidt. It's about technology. Technology is changing our shopping and driving habits. How can our village adapt to these changes?
Technology is changing. I teach at Harper College. I've been teaching it for 25 years, and I tell us now things that we're teaching the freshmen will be outdated by the time they're juniors. We have to keep up with this technology, and the technology is not only internally with the village and communication with the public, but also get the technology into the community that will support the community, meaning the business park and our residents. And I think that one of the things that I would propose is to start having a series of meetings, possibly with some people in the area, experts of technology, so that we can properly prepare this community for the future. With the internet, with the changes in that, with the vehicles, the cars that are going to be self-driving. They say in the next 50 years, we're going to have flying cars. And, we got to prepare for all this new technology that's going to be coming forward. So we have to get involved with the private sector and get the experts involved in having some communication to prepare for that.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs?
Well, technology won't just impact shopping and driving in the community. It certainly will impact communications, and it already has. I think we need to ensure that we continue to encourage education, not just for the village itself, but the businesses that are here. There's certainly some opportunities for collaboration, especially as we try and attract new technology business into the community, that there's ways to educate and help grow, as well as engage from the village perspective with the citizens that we have. So technology as a whole will have an impact on the society that we live in, whether that is around shopping, or it's around driving, or it's around communications. I think we have an opportunity to really learn from what's happening and to engage the community in a way that's meaningful with the partners that we have to collaborate within the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik?
Technology is the future, and that's the key with everything within our abilities. It's not only the education of our youth, which is extremely important, and I think that our schools have to and will be addressing it with Harper and our high schools, going down into grade schools, but also to individual residents. Our library and other school districts help us to learn some of that technology. Even our village employees help us. If with our apps and our Twitter accounts and Facebook, we have the ability to reach out. And if you need help, that's always a way of going through it. As the others have said, this is our future, and this is something that we are always having to look forward to.
Thank you. Ms. Mortensen?
Technology is what we need. It's good for us, it's good for our youth. I've, over the last couple of years, have used the My Elk Grove app, which I think is a wonderful app. It gets people involved. If they have an issue or a problem, they can go to that app. And there's so many people that don't even know about the app. If you go to the app and it'll go to the right department if you have an issue. That becomes a real problem, sometimes not getting to the right people. We do need the technology in the business park. We work with the high schools and try to get more people involved in manufacturing. And that's pretty much, technology is good for us all.
Thank you. Mr. Listner?
Thank you. Regarding technology, we have so much going on. We have a talented staff in the area of technology. Just mentioning communications, which has been covered a couple of times, but we have our local channel on Elk Grove TV. We have the app that Julie mentioned. We have newsletters. We've been trying to take a presence on social media. Just, I believe this week, our police department started their own spot on Twitter. Most of the activity has been on Facebook up till now. But when we also count on the local newspapers to get the word out, I'm glad to see at least one is here today. And we also have a new tech park opening up right at Higgins, which is a beautiful site. And we're looking for the grand opening shortly, and I think that's going to bring in even more technology to our business park. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Sachs, you're going to be next to start, and it's a question about transparency. What can we do to make the committee of the whole meetings more transparent?
Interesting. Well, I think as with every meeting that we've got, encouraging participation, making sure that it's available and accessible for the public, communicating that the meeting is being held, where it's being held, that there's multiple ways to participate, whether that's in person, online, on TV, ensuring that we communicate the committee as a whole meeting just as much as we do the actual board meeting, where I think we've been very good with transparency there.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik?
Our committee of the whole meetings are televised also prior to our board meetings, and those are not only done at that time, but they're repeated. So the ability for the residents to know what's going on is there. All they have to do is reach for it. And that's something that can be done not at that date, but as it goes on, and even on their computers, because now you can get it streamed through Channel 6. Our transparency is something that I believe we were one of the first villages that ever recorded our board meetings and have continued and tried to get other boards to do that also, because again, it gets them available to our public so they know what's going on.
Thank you. Ms. Mortensen?
The committee of the whole meetings, I don't think there has been any for like 6 or 7 months. I believe that as far as transparency, it would be nice to see how the board votes and why they vote. In fact, I got in touch with Sam. I emailed him because of an issue that was coming up, and I voiced my opinion. And I think that's what we have to do more of. If we voice our opinions and the board doesn't listen to us, then we have an issue. If we voice our opinions and the board does listen to us, then we have a great community and the residents are being heard.
Thank you. Mr. Listner?
Thank you. We don't have as many committee of the whole meetings as I think some people would like to see. However, we do have a lot of separate meetings. We have I can't think of the name. Well, we have a cable committee. We have, why can't I think of Chris's committee? JPZ, which covers a lot of issues. And we have a youth committee, and it's just to give the board and staff a little more time to not have to tackle each issue. By the committees handling them, it gives us a chance to get a lot of background information, and then if necessary, we will go to a committee of the whole. So it's a good question, but I don't think we have a problem there.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, I agree with Sam that there are all these other committees that these topics are discussed before it gets to the board, and maybe if there's anything, maybe the village can do a better job in announcing and promoting these meetings so that the public are more aware of them, and they can come to these meetings and talk directly with the trustees and these various committees about these issues so that their voices are heard. And then they can do the same thing at the committee of the whole meetings because they are published, there's notices put out. And so I guess maybe we have to do a better job of a public awareness, so to speak, so that people are aware of these meetings so they can attend and they can voice their opinions.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik, you're going to be next. The question is about intergovernmental cooperation. What should the relationship be? What should the relationship between the government and the school district be?
Each is its own entity and its own board, but the cooperation, being able to support each other and make sure that the residents are heard from on both areas. It's important for each of the boards to respect, whether it be the school board, the library, or the park boards, that they respect the decisions that they're making as well as what the residents need. We like to make sure that we've heard what is going on and what is involved, but I think is something that has to be brought to each board individually and to try to influence it along the lines of what the residents would like to have done.
Thank you. Ms. Mortensen?
They're two different entities, but they really connect with each other. I found over the last couple of years that with the real estate agencies, they grade the school district so that when people move into an area, they're looking at what the grade is on the schooling. So we have to work together with that, because if we don't get new residents into the village to raise their children here and use our school systems, then we end up losing people. So we actually have to work very hard together to make sure that we make the residents heard and that we have a community that is working for everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Lissner?
Thank you. We have really great rapport with all the other governments within Elk Grove. We have a phenomenal park district, we have a great library, and the school districts, I think, are doing a fine job. There are some issues on which testing should be used, but these people are experts, and I know we like to work with all of them. In fact, this coming Tuesday, which is going to be a long day for me, I'm going to be judging a science fair at Link School, which is on the west side, and the mayor said I better be careful because there's a lot of voters there. But we do find they do a fine job, and the mayor was kind enough to actually open our village hall to a lot of people that had concerns about District 59 recently. Let me just end with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
As a former chief, I had a lot of experience with intergovernmental agreements. We worked with many agencies around us, and the theme of it was cooperation, and that's what I would bring to this level. We have to cooperate and work together with all these other public entities, because this is Elk Grove Village. And anything that the school district does, we do, the park district does, it affects all of us. So I would work to really work hard with these other governmental agencies to make sure that we provide the best services possible, be it education, park district, whatever the issue may be, to ensure that we have the best here in Elk Grove Village, because that's why we are the exceptional community.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs?
I'm a firm believer in cooperation and collaboration, and I would agree that, we are Elk Grove Village. But as far as intergovernmental cooperation is concerned, it certainly goes beyond the village and the schools into all the other entities that we've got here. We should be looking at opportunities to potentially consolidate on services and collaboration in ways that it will save taxpayers money. While we certainly are different entities, we should be looking at this holistically as looking at how can we save the village money as a whole. As long as there's always that community focus and not competition, and we're doing what's best for the village, we should be pursuing any opportunity possible to cooperate and collaborate with the other entities here, schools, parks, library, any other entity within the village.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Mortensen, you're going to be next for the next question. This is about diversity. Elk Grove Village is a diverse community. How would you promote diversity in our government?
Diversity in our government, I guess we would have to actually try to involve more people. We have a very diverse community, so maybe we have to go out door to door, if we have to knock on door to door, or promote something that says we want everybody heard. If you come to the meetings and voice your opinions, then we're hearing from everybody. Sometimes that's hard to get people involved, so that we might have to get creative in order to have all of our diverse community be involved. But I'm sure we could work on it and get the people that we need to hear from, heard from.
Thank you. Mr. Listener.
Thank you. I think we all would agree that we want our community to be as diverse as possible. It's wonderful. Just recently, one of our trustees took a trip to Bulgaria along with our police chief. They have some interest in forming a sister city relationship. However, I've also had an idea how we can get more people involved in government. For many years, we've had a Citizens Police Academy and a Citizens Fire Academy, and we've had great turnout. The classes fill up real quick every time. So I've been trying to work with staff to come up with a citizens, I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet, but sort of a board academy or something, so we can get maybe young people to stick their toe in the water and see what it's like. They could hear about our various boards and commissions and get them involved in government, because it's important that we keep everyone involved.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
As a chief of the nationally accredited police department, we had to recruit to get people a representative of our community, so I've had some experience with that. And that's one of the things I like to do when I mention about getting the youth involved, or the younger people involved in our community, not so much youth, but people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and go out and get these groups from these diverse areas and get them involved in our civic organizations, because these civic organizations support the village and the village supports them. And then also, I agree with Sam, getting them involved and interested in government, because we need to prepare for the future, and our community is getting more diverse, and we have to prepare for that, and we have to embrace that. So it's very important to look at diversity in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
Well, diversity speaks directly towards community engagement, and whether we need to communicate in different ways via technology to reach a younger demographic at times, or in different languages to reach a different cultural demographic, we should be looking at reaching out to different communities and the ways that are meaningful to them, whether that's around age or language or culture or anything else. I would agree that we always can use more diversity, and on any board and any community, reaching out to them over time certainly requires a little bit of proactiveness, because diversity changes, communities change over time. We just need to make sure that we're recognizing the diverse communities that we've got and finding ways to communicate effectively with all of them.
Thank you, Ms. Zarnick.
Diversity is a difficult area to be able to reach out into, to make sure that they are aware that their voices are heard. Just as the other candidates have mentioned, we really have to get into the applications of the new technology, what's comfortable for them. Our newsletters, perhaps something along those lines, we try to do that on a regular basis. But the one thing that I think is very important is trying to get the volunteers back into the community. We are lacking on some of the availability of the people to be able to give up their time. And part of it is because of the economy, the way everything is structured at this time, the two-income families and scheduling with children, but we have to reach out.
Thank you. The next question, Mr. Listener, you will be first. When we started with the big issue, most important at first, the word taxes came up, so let's return to that. How would you hold the line on taxes?
Well, I think the main thing is, first of all, to keep our business park as full as possible, maybe even a waiting list, as Steve suggested. But that's where most of the taxes come from in our village. I think it's something like 80% are paid by the village, or by the business park, and the rest is paid by the residents. The other thing is to keep working with other governments. We've proposed ways of trying to reduce the number of different governments. It was talked about earlier, but we have a state that has its problems, and they've been actually taking funds away from villages and using them to pay their own bills, which means that we have to work even harder to get the funds we need. So we want to work with the state, with the township, and all the other entities to see if we can reduce any overlap that's possible, so we can save some money that's being spent.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, I agree a lot with what Sam says. I want to add one word to it. I have a lot of experience in municipal budgeting. When you run a business, a private business, you look at the end of the year and see how much money you made, how much profit you made, and that's you determine if you're good. We are not in the business for profit. We are in business to provide services. So when we provide budgets, when I was chief, we always looked at what do we need to operate, not what we want. And when we did that, we keep our taxes lower and we keep our budgets level. That's one of the reasons why there has been no tax increases. All the department is have worked closely with the village elected officials and the village managers to make sure that our taxes are low, and yet we can provide the services that you, the people here, need. So I do have that experience and understanding about municipal budgets and keeping them level so that we do not have to raise taxes in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
As a long-term nonprofit board member, every dollar that we have is donated to us. So it's, I would say, even more precious than tax dollars. So holding the line on spending is something that's always been very important. Fiscal responsibility is, I think, a huge component of public service and really any type of service to others. Business development has been and needs to remain key to how we keep our services high and that tax dollar low. Not just in acquiring new business, and I love the idea of having a waiting list, but in working with our businesses that are currently there today. They're the revenue producers. How do we encourage growth and help them facilitate growth? I think looking at other governmental agencies proactively around consolidation, getting in front of things with the state to ensure that as much money is coming into the village as possible, and then being incredibly responsible to the taxpayers is exactly what we need to do to keep that tax dollar low and our services high. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zarnick.
The village has been very fiscally responsible over the years, and that is what has kept our taxes reasonable and lower than the others in the northwest suburbs. We've made sure that our budget stays, successful in being able to meet what the needs are in our infrastructure. The business park, as I said before, is our breadbasket. We make sure that that's going on and being successful. One of the things that we have done as far as started an ambassador program for the last several years, where we go out to the businesses and ask them how we can help them grow, because their growth is our growth. That helps us. We've gone forward on that, and we want to make sure that that continues.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen.
Taxes, we'd all like them to be cheap, but they're not. And as far as trying to keep the taxes down with the industry, that's great. But we have two different townships in Elk Grove Village. And some of our taxes are a little on the lower side, and some of our taxes are on the higher side. So we have more business on the east side of Elk Grove Village. How do we get the businesses to getting more involved in the community, giving more back to the community? Can they help us get more for our buck out of there so that it keeps our taxes and it keeps everybody a little more level?
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt, you're going to be first with the next question. What new idea or ideas are you most eager to bring to the board?
Well, the newest, or my most desirous idea is to reach out to the civic organizations, as I mentioned. reach out to the youth in the community. I've been involved with youth organizations for many, many years, and I believe that we have to get the younger, next generation ready to move up into these positions. I mentioned getting involved in our civic organizations, getting involved in local government. I mean, I teach at Harper, and every class I say, what's going on? You know, I start my class on what's going on in the news, and they just sit there. And it's like, come on, you know, you got to understand what's going on in our world, what's going on in our communities, what's going on in our state. I talk about this all the time because these are our future leaders. And they're going to be taking over these positions, so we need to get them prepared, get them interested in what's going on in this world. We need, and like I mentioned, our civic organizations, we're losing membership. We need to upgrade those memberships, get more people involved, and hopefully get more people interested in at least local government.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs?
I think, you know, using technology to help increase community engagement overall will be a benefit, not just engaging youth, but kind of the entire community at any age level. Although I certainly, as sitting on the youth committee today, have some plans for collaboration with the Park District, with the school district, and with other civic and religious organizations within the community. I think it's really around how do we reach out to people in a way that's meaningful to them, to keep the community engaged, and to really work at some of these intergenerational things between youth and seniors that we've got in this community that would really create a bond that I think to some extent we're missing today, and how the village can be facilitators in that to encourage more civic participation with or without new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zarnik?
The new idea is probably really an old idea that has been brought up. We had a community service nurse that reached out, and I'm concerned of some of our senior residents that some of the ability to be able to reach out and get some information and some help along those lines. That's something that we're still looking at. We've had to consolidate. It's worked to some degree. I don't want anything to be falling through the cracks, and it's something that I feel that it's important to me to be looking at again and trying to find out if we're servicing at that area as we have in the past and that we continue to do in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Mortensen?
How do we get more residents involved is one of the big issues that I feel we need done here in the village. We need to get the people to voice their opinions, and if it's too hard for them to come out to physically, then come to a trustee, come to anybody who's going to be your voice. We need to hear your voice. We need to get you involved. So if you don't like to participate in something, then come to the trustees, come to the people that are representing you.
Thank you. Mr. Listener?
Thank you. One of my ideas, unfortunately, I mentioned a few minutes ago about getting citizens more involved by this new Citizens Board Academy. But another one I've been involved with is Enclave. I don't know how many of you have heard of Enclave, but it's on Turner Avenue, right next to, close to Munchies. But anyway, Enclave is trying to help entrepreneurs start new businesses or liven up their existing business to be more productive. In fact, I've probably been the most avid pusher of that on the board. In fact, I've asked to have March 26th committee of the whole meeting where Enclave can do another presentation to the board to see what's involved. If you go to a meeting, you'll see existing businesses, new people that are getting involved in businesses, and even more important, you'll see students from Harper College. The last one I went to probably had about 10 students there, just getting more ideas. It was really good to see.
Very good. Thank you. That actually was the last question. Time flies. So you can get ready for your closing statements, which will be 1 minute. And the first closing statement will be by Mr. Sachs.
Thank you to everyone for attending today and for the thoughtful questions and the meaningful engagement in our community. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting today's forum, and thank you to the mayor and the village for the venue. As we leave here today, I hope this is the start of our conversations, not the end. Our government works best when we all participate, and I encourage you to stay involved. Change is coming to the village board. On April 2nd, your vote will determine the leaders that set our strategies and policies. I'm asking for your vote, not to change direction, but to bring a new perspective, a renewed sense of community engagement, and a continued prosperity to our village. Thank you for your time today and for your vote on Election Day. I look forward to serving our community as your next Elk Grove Village trustee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zarnik.
Thank you for listening today and for being great residents who have listened to us and speak with us, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Another 4 years of being able to serve you. I have the dedication, I have the time, I have the experience. I have done something over these last 30 years for the residents, for the board, and I have a lot more to do. I really appreciate the time, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen.
I want to be your voice. I want to be your voice to the residents of Elk Grove Village. I want to thank everybody for coming today and participating. That's what we need. We need everybody to participate, but I would like to be your voice. I would like to be the voice of the residents so that you are heard.
Thank you. Mr. Listener.
Thank you. My thanks to the League of Women Voters and all the people that came to this meeting today, or whatever we're calling it. I do look forward to serving another 4-year term, and I'm looking forward to your vote. But this is sort of a sad time at the same time because we have one of our most valuable trustees retiring this year, Jim Petri, who has been so much help to all of us, maybe I'm thinking especially me, because he's given us so much insight into what has taken place over the last 40 years. So again, I'm looking forward to another 4, but they're probably not going to be quite as happy as the past. And thank you.
Thank you. Last, Mr. Schmidt.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters, to the village, and to all of you for attending today. What I bring to this is this. When I was chief of police, this community supported me tremendously, and I had a great career. I want to continue to serve this village. I've lived here for over 30 years, and what I'm about to say, I hope most of you here, I think most of you here understand this. You fall in love with this village, and I have fallen in love with this village. And I want to continue to serve you in another capacity. I will do the best I can, just as I did as chief of police. I bring experience, I bring municipal experience to this position, municipal budgeting, and plus I have a vision, I believe, for the future to ensure that this community is going to be as great as it is today.
Thank you. That concludes the forum, so give a round of applause for our candidates here today. Thank you.